And I'll introduce our last speaker, who Kari introduced her earlier today. It's Havala Schumacher, the third program manager on the SIG program. Havala, why don't we just wait just another minute, because people start flying in here right at 3. But I will hand the floor to you.
All right, looks like we've got people rolling in, so I will wait to start the meat of this presentation, but hopefully, you've all heard a lot already during today about the kind of compliance parts and the required parts of what you're going to do. The session this afternoon is, I won't say just for fun, it's critical business, but if you never do a press release or never send us a success story, we'll still pay you for your project. I do hope to persuade you this afternoon kind of why you should want to communicate about your SIG project, tell you some places where you can do that, and give you a couple tips for how and what to do so. I'm going to turn off my camera and just wait until maybe 1 more minute after the hour, and then we will be on our way. All right, it is 2 minutes after the hour, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. Looks like we still got folks rolling in. That's all right. Again, today's presentation on project communications for SIG is an essential part of your project, but not a required part of your project. But I hope that you walk out of here today with some tools, again, understanding kind of why it's so important to talk about the work that you're doing, some places that you can amplify that message within NRCS and outside of our resources, kind of how to start crafting your story, and what you might want to talk about. So let's start here. On this day, just about to the day 20 years ago, I had just dropped out of a grad program in folklore, and I was on an AmeriCorps crew, and we walked into a Denver art room and saw this 650-pound reinforced concrete gorilla that the art teacher was very keen on getting into a playground. So this group of, what was it, 8 of us, I guess 9 of us or so, spent the day using rollers from the gym, using tarps, using sheer muscle to get this thing across muddy soccer fields and planted next to some swing sets. Now, why the heck am I telling you that story? Well, I'm telling you that story because if you see this gorilla planted in the middle of a playground in Denver today, you'd really have no idea how it got there. And this was one of the big lessons that I ever took home about how important it is to kind of tell the story about the work that you've done and how it got in the ground. So the other reason that I showed you that picture is that storytelling really matters. And in the words of Doug Mackenzie Moore, in a little book called Fostering Sustainable Behavior, which I actually find very helpful for talking through how to tell stories in a compelling way that persuade people to adopt certain behaviors, says all persuasion begins with capturing attention, right? Doesn't have to be a gorilla, could be something else. One of the best recent examples that we've seen is this story called Could North Carolina Export Poop for Profit? This was published by North Carolina State University. This is a SIG-funded project that essentially takes pig poop and turns it into fertilizer for sale and kind of closes that loop of, what do we do with this excess phosphorus problem? All right, I can see that one of you has actually read Fostering Sustainable Behavior, so I'll take that as a win, 1 upvote. So capturing attention is really the first thing to think about. Why else, though? Kind of the nuts and bolts. So you just got this this bunch of federal money. And there are several reasons you might want to talk about your project. The first is to benefit your own organization, right? A lot of you have very well developed public networks. People are very well aware of what you're doing. Others of you might need a little bit of a boost. Telling the story of how you got this federal grant is a great way to tell outside stakeholders about the conservation work you're doing, about the innovation work you're doing, about the scientific work you're doing, and really enhance that awareness of what you're doing on the ground. The next reason, of course, is just to enhance awareness of conservation in general. Not everybody in the public is always aware, just like the gorilla getting into the playground, aware of how it is that a conservation practice becomes kind of a standard, or how how an innovation takes hold. So really boosting that awareness of the work that you're doing, of how conservation works, of how agriculture works, that in itself is a public good. The third thing is just to introduce the innovations that you are implementing to the public and to potential project partners. So there might be individuals out there who who can help you out with the work that you're doing, who are interested in implementing something similar, who want to learn more. Getting the word out there is great for all of that. And then there's always the side benefit of, potentially attracting additional funders. And then the fourth one is self-serving for our perspective, as of course we are always interested in enhancing awareness of the Conservation Innovation Grants Program and NRCS in general. So any mention you make of us helps feedback into that loop of helping us get good projects. So, kind of three-part benefit to you, benefit to conservation, benefit to the CIG program when you talk about the work you've done that's funded through our awards. All right, so step 2, when you tell us about the good work you're doing, we have a variety of USDA mechanisms that we can use to help amplify your message and get that word out there. So just wanted to walk through a couple of those. If you go to farmers.gov, or if you go to the NRCS SIG website, you'll see a click here for email updates button. There's a conservation gov delivery listserv that has over 100,000 subscribers. And when we put out messaging from NRCS, those updates go to those 100,000 subscribers. So that is one quick, easy way. If we have something that we post to a blog or we post to our website, very often we can get a synopsis of that information out to a wide variety of partners. The second of those is the USDA blog. We have a USDA-wide blog that our social media team, that our external affairs team maintains. That gets about 350,000 unique page views every single year. So wide variety of subscribers, a lot of them overlapping with that Gov delivery email, but certainly outside entities as well. So this is industry groups, other nonprofits. It may be some of you who are reading this blog as well. But all this really takes is sending us a good story, and we can get that story to our external affairs team, work with your team to turn it into a really interesting blog post that we can get out kind of for public consumption. We do look at your progress reviews and try to look through those and see if there's something interesting in there. But you don't have to wait until your semi-annual progress report is due to tell us about the work you're doing. That can really happen anytime, separate and apart from the progress reports. The third is an NRCS Success Spotlight page that, again, is on that Conservation Innovation Grants main page. And then the fourth one is that we have a quarterly SIG newsletter. I think that didn't go out this quarter, but we get it out as often as we can. And again, that goes to our network of subscribers. That's where we highlight funding opportunities, anything that we've seen in the news about your awards. So if you pitch your success story to an external media partner, we might pick it up there. But then again, we also like to highlight some really impactful projects every time we send out that newsletter. So again, the more stories we get in, the more material we have to work with. All right, so this is kind of new breaking news. Our current SIG website is under revision. A new website is in development. That website has been released. It's just not linked to our main page yet. But projects from 2004 through 2019 are on this website and search tool now that just gives us kind of high-level overview of your projects. In the next, I don't know whether it will be this year, but soon enough, your projects will also be listed here. And this is one way for the public to find out about your projects and, see if they want to get in touch with you to learn more about them. The other place that's being built out, perhaps more interestingly, is a success stories page on that same website. So if you go to this web address below, this sig.sc.egov.usda.gov/success stories, that's a spot that will take you to success stories that folks have sent us. That's linked back to the newsletter. This is a work in progress, so we don't have a whole lot of stuff on this new website yet. So we are always looking for your content. Of course, the more of that we can get, the better we can build out a full story of what these SIG projects are all about. Okay. And finally, North Carolina, we can't stop looking at this big picture, but definitely feel empowered as well to self-promote. So many of you have internal websites or social media channels, Facebook, Instagram. I don't know if anybody here has TikTok. I'm showing my age. You might have an employee newsletter, anything like that. So just as you can send us success stories and we can post them to any of those USDA specific channels we've talked about, if you reach out to us and say, hey, I'm planning to put something up on my North Carolina State University website, on my Nature Conservancy website, on what have you, our leadership can provide quotes to help amplify the press release. Our external affairs folks maintain kind of a cache of those. So again, we really appreciate it when folks not only use our resources, but also kind of their internal resources to promote SIG. Malika, yes, definitely tag NRCS on your Twitter or Instagram posts. I'm going to talk a little bit about logos and accreditation later. Caroline, I don't know if we have any approved hashtags. I can get back to you guys on that. I'm not sure about that.
I'm thinking we don't, but I would definitely, check with Erica. It's a great question.
I'll check in with our external affairs person, and I'll definitely include that for Caroline to get out there. Just making a note. So the next thing, of course, is not only your internal websites, but and not only our websites, but also external partners. NPR recently ran a great piece on an award that was made to Heart of the Rockies for non-lethal predator control. So again, NPR, great external media source. You don't need permission from us to pitch your story to an external media source. Again, just making sure that you fully credit us. All right, and some quick tips for telling that story. And again, these are from that Fostering Sustainable Behavior Handbook. This is not the full and complete list. These are just a couple of high-level points, right? So one, using captivating information, right? If you've got a really interesting statistic that ties the work that you're doing to something that is in general public awareness, or, again, can't say enough about pig poop, but using colorful language, using colorful illustrative examples of the work you're doing to really capture that public attention, bearing in mind that, scientists read your work, but so do members of the general public. So that's number 2, knowing your audience. Are you directing your story to an internal user group? Are you directing your story to NPR Montana's listeners? Are you directing your story to perhaps a larger media outlet? Just thinking about who that message is, what you want to tell them about the work that you're doing, and really why they should care, how this connects to them. And then part 3 is, we talked about pitching to NRCS, to having us help amplify your message. We talked about internal outlets, external outlets, but the kind of 4th role in there is anybody who has heard your story, right? If it's a really good story, they might tell others. And that kind of word of mouth network can't really be overestimated. All right, so I think I saw in the chat earlier, as I was kind of keeping one eye on this and one eye on another meeting, somebody already also said, don't be shy about telling us the times when your project maybe wasn't a traditional success. But we do know, these are conservation innovation grants. And we know that with innovation comes risk, and with innovation comes the unexpected. And so absolutely, in your progress reports, tell us about the stuff that did not go 100% according to plan, because that helps inform our program. But that's also a really interesting, crucial part of the story that you tell to the public, to your external stakeholders as well. Not necessarily, maybe exactly, we were wrong about everything. This didn't go according to plan. But, I'll bet for every single one of your projects, there will be kind of moments in there that are surprising, that aren't the information that you expected to gather. And that stuff is really interesting and informative to the reader. So do think about that as well. All right, so outside media, again, if you're pitching to NPR or the New York Times or your local hometown paper, do let us know if you have a press release going out there, if you're sending out a publication, if you're having a media event. We can provide you quotes, we can provide you support, and we can also potentially amplify that message by getting out there ourselves or reposting what you've done. So do let us know. So that goes to number 2. If you want our help on something, if you want leadership quotes, if you think it would make a really punchy blog post, let us know. There is not specific giving NRCS credit language, but something along the lines, and I believe this is in our CIG new awardee guide, but something along the lines of, this project was funded in part by a conservation innovation grant through the Natural Resource Conservation Service, goes a long way in getting the word out about where the money came from and who's backing it. So this helps us. And again, it's that feedback loop of everybody giving each other credit for good work done. And then finally, there's a USDA logo. I think the one that is linked on our website might not be openable, but we have logo copies that we can provide you, and definitely feel welcome to include those on your print materials, on your media stuff. Again, just to help amplify that message. As you're thinking about pitching to external media or even to us, here's a quick way of doing that. But again, don't feel constrained. If you have another way of telling a great story, we'd love that. But if you're sitting there thinking about your project and you're not quite sure where to start, how to start writing that story, this is one place that you can start. So first, your hook. What makes your project different? Again, you all have something that makes your project innovative. You were awarded for innovation. So this should be, again, what makes your project new, interesting, different than folks have seen before. And yes, Alicia, these slides will be shared. So we'll be putting these up with the rest of the slides from this orientation. So next, a short intro to your project. Who did the work? What are you doing? What problem are you trying to solve? Why are you undertaking this work? Why is it important, right? Again, why do people care? Next, this is natural resource work. So what are those components, right? What natural resources are being impacted? What environmental challenges are being addressed? What key issues are being worked on? What impact are you planning to have on the landscape and on the people who depend on that land? So that's the next element, the human, who is impacted, right? So we care about conserving the soil. We also care very much about the livelihoods of the people working that soil, consumers of food, producers of food, consumers and producers of maybe non-edible goods. So I'm thinking about, say, a Carolina cotton project. What is being conserved and who does it matter to? And if you capture all those elements, that's about, 2-3 paragraphs. That tells a really good story right there. All right, so your next steps. Step 1, it is not too early at all to draft some basic project communications using the template, using some other mechanism. Locating those partners who might be able to, again, amplify your story, locating those local media outlets, finding those opportunities. This says top pitch to pitch your project. So, telling really anybody that you run into what you're doing and why it's interesting, and those opportunities to talk about it might surprise you. And then next, our inbox, nrcssig@usda.gov. If you're doing interesting work, tell us about it. Again, does not have to wait for when those progress reports are being shared. It can really be at any time. And, you don't have to have a fully formed story to tell us about it either. It can be the seed of an idea. And, we do have external affairs folks and our project team who would be happy to work with you to help craft that story. Another great resource is your project technical contact. So they're the ones who are reading your report. They are, reports, they're in touch with you on your project, so they can be an excellent resource. They're often closer to the ground in the states that you're working, in the places that you're working, than we are here in the national office. So in terms of local resources and framing your project, that's another good resource for you. All right, so end of the day, did intend to keep this quick and punchy. This is not a mandate. It is a strong suggestion to tell your story every chance you get. So my final quote here: the purpose of a storyteller is not to tell you how to think, but to give you questions to think upon. Is just a reminder that the science you're doing, the work you're doing, feeds future innovation, right? So you're not only telling people what you've discovered, but you're giving them ideas about what they can do next, and maybe what that next cadre of grant applicants might do, what the opportunities are to pursue future innovation. And with that, I'm just under a half an hour. If anybody's got questions, I am happy to stick around for another 7 minutes. Or if folks have had a full day of slides, my feelings will not be hurt if you want to pop off the phone.
Yeah, just put questions in the chat box or raise your hand and we can call on you. Who should we ask for the logo?
So just send an email to that nrcssig@usda.gov email address, and we can send you copies of printable logos.
And we also have it downloadable from our website on the grantee page.
Although I just tried to click that, and I believe that link might be broken.
Scratch that. Thanks, Havala.
Yeah. We'll also try to get that back up. But if you click and it doesn't work, you can also just send us a note.
Yeah.
Any concerns with on-farm trial participants about protecting their privacy for traditional or social media? So great question about that. Obviously we don't want to disclose the PII or the privacy of any producers who don't have a wish to be involved. I don't want to put Leah on the spot or Caroline, but any other words of advice about involving incentive payment recipients, producer recipients?
I guess we should let Leah answer that in terms of incentive recipients, but in general, if you do a media piece, definitely don't quote anyone or involve anyone without asking their permission.
Yeah, sharing any specific producer information is always very sensitive and should be done with extreme caution or not at all. Unless you have the explicit approval or consent of the producer, it's always best to leave out any personal information from the producers that are involved in the project.
Yeah, and I'll go out on a limb. I think this is something that I can check with our external affairs person about as well, but I believe they have a media waiver form if something like that is desired. I can double check on that for this group.
Okay, let me see if anything else is. Oh yeah, who are you in the gorilla pit?
Everybody always likes talking about themselves, right? So I'm just going to use this for all my introductions now. I am right here leaning on the gorilla, about half the age I am now. We're not going to talk about that.
Okay. All right, let's just give it another 30 seconds. Let us know if there's any other questions. Oh, a question. Will we get the slides? Yes. I will put the slides in an Adobe PDF format and send them out to everyone tonight. Because in terms of them just, not being too large on the email. I'm also going to try to send out the recordings. I have links to the recordings, but we'll see if that works. Okay. Let's see, I shouldn't probably share my screen quite yet. Okay, any other questions? Okay. All right, I'm just gonna. Okay, sorry, go ahead, Havala.
Oh no, I was just going to thank everybody for your attention. No, it's been a long day, and I'm really looking forward to hearing about your projects.
Okay, I have a final slide here of what's going on tomorrow. So I can't see any more if any more questions come in. But yes, we have come to the close of day one. Thank you so much for your time. Hopefully this wasn't too much of a slog. It's a lot of dry information. But our orientation continues tomorrow. There's a couple different events. Leah's going to talk in a second here about on-farm trials. There's actually 2 more sessions for some of the on-farm trials project teams, the CIG Classic projects, which are projects that you're in communication with me on. We don't have any more trainings, but tomorrow we do have priority group discussions for most of our groups. I think there's out of the 5 priority groups, 1 will be at a later date. And at this point in time, I think everyone should have a meeting set up with their technical contact for CIG Classic. So I want to thank everyone for taking your time today. And as we've said a million times, don't hesitate to ask us any questions. I'd like to also, before we go, I'll hand the floor over to Leah really quick.
Yeah, thanks, Caroline. Yeah, I'll just echo Caroline in saying thanks for taking your time to learn more about the general program admin today. I look forward to speaking with the on-farm trials awardees tomorrow morning, where we're going to go into more details specific to on-farm trials. And so the program technical contact and admin contact, the primary for your project, should have gotten the invitation for tomorrow morning. If you starting 11 a.m. Eastern time. If you didn't get that, please reach out to me. And as Caroline said, the technical contact one-on-one meetings, we held a time from 3:30 to 5 p.m. Eastern tomorrow. If that doesn't work for you or your technical contacts, there's flexibility in that. I know for on-farm trials, I've already seen a handful of folks schedule them for Friday or other days. We want to do them sooner rather than later, so you can kind of get started with your project and get to know your technical contact. But it doesn't have to fit in that window if that doesn't work for you or your technical contact. So with that, I'll just say thanks again and really look forward to speaking in more details with the on-farm trials awardees tomorrow morning. So if you have questions, always feel free to reach out to us. The first line of defense is nrcs.cig@usda.gov. I know we've hammered that email into you on several different slides, but if you're confused about where to start, that's the best place. And we also welcome you to reach out to Caroline or myself. I know we've been kind of the front line of communications so far, so we can point you in the right direction if you need help. So with that, thanks all, and we look forward to continuing the orientation tomorrow.
Yep, and really quick, Syed, you wrote, how can you get your technical contact info? Just email me. I'll email you after this presentation.
Yeah,
but yeah.
That's a great question. If by chance you have not heard from your technical contact already, I know there were a handful of OFT technical contacts that were out last week. I believe we've caught all of them, but if you haven't had your technical contact reach out to you, feel free to email Caroline or myself, and we will send an introductory email.
Okay. Great. With that, thank you. You can all go. You have a little bit more time in your day than expected.
Thank you.
Thanks all.
Thanks all.